Is AI helpful or hurtful when it comes to making decisions? Today is part 2 of my series on the impacts of AI on your decision making. So if you caught my April Fool's post earlier this week, you probably saw me announce a new AI chip implant that lets artificial intelligence make all your decisions for you. It was just a joke, thankfully, but the reactions were hilarious. Some of you weren't surprised because, let's be honest, it kind of feels like we're heading in that direction, right? Someone sent me a message that they're like, there's already something that does this. And I really hope that's not true, that someone could implant something in your brain that makes your decisions for you. Like, that is just such a horrible idea. If you want to hear more, go back to episode 30, which was all about 6 reasons that you shouldn't depend on AI to make decisions for you. I think it was titled, Is AI Sabotaging Your Decision-Making Abilities? And I talked about how it impacts you spiritually. We want to be taking God's lead and not depending on AI to make decisions for us when God often has a completely bizarre or unique different plan and purpose. We talked about just emotional intelligence and how that could be lost when we get so caught up in using AI to make our decisions for us. Our identity, boundaries, and why it's dangerous to give up control. So if you missed it, go back and listen to that episode first, and then come back to this one since that lays some groundwork for today's conversation. Because here's the thing, while I don't believe AI should replace your decision making, I do believe it can be an incredibly helpful and time-saving tool when used wisely. And that's what today is about. So today I'm going to talk about how to use AI as a tool, not a crutch, in your decision-making process. I'll share about how I use it in both my business and personal life, where it has failed me, and then we'll walk through some of the best practices and common pitfalls to avoid all those do's and don'ts. Welcome to the Anchored Decision Show. I'm your host, Lauren Black, the world's biggest overthinker turned decision coach, all by the grace of God. Now I'm on a mission to help you make easier decisions, discover God's will, and live with purpose. Tune in weekly to hear real-life decision stories, expert insights, and faith-based strategies to help you navigate your decisions with confidence. So ditch your pros and cons list and learn to make better decisions without asking your mom or losing another night of sleep. Let's go. So confession time. I use AI almost every single day. And you're probably questioning that, knowing that last week's episode, I was sharing all the reasons why you shouldn't depend on AI. But I think it is a powerful tool. And I even started to pay for the paid version of ChatGPT to unlock full features like an extended memory that goes through all of my old content and can pull from that, and being able to upload longer documents in it for proofing or for making show notes for my podcast episodes. I take my whole transcript of my podcast and I drop it in and say, hey, write a summary, write the key points. Here's my show notes format. Will you format that for this episode? Super, super helpful. And without the paid version, I could only get like half my script in at a time. So I do pay for ChatGPT. I do use it almost every single day. Here are a few things that I use it for. One is medical research. So I've been going through some medical things and just trying to get to the root of my problem as I'm waiting for doctor's appointments and trying to problem solve some of this on my own. I go to ChatGPT. I can plug in my symptoms. I can plug in the things that I've done and tried. And so that way we're able to work together between me and ChatGPT to then have a good overview of things to bring to my doctor. So I don't treat it as a diagnosis. I don't, try to use this in place of a doctor, but it's just helping. And number 2, podcast planning. So I will provide a framework of what I want my episodes to be about, my theme, and some bullet points for my episodes like this one. And then AI helps me refine the flow, fill in some gaps, improve timing, clarify my ideas, or kind of rearrange bullet points so that it flows. And I have so many content ideas, like hundreds of ideas for podcast episodes and social media posts and content. And obviously I can't create everything, or at least not all at once. So I have also used it for plugging in all my ideas and saying, hey, pick out the best ones that I can use to reach my audience of this, and in order to meet the goal of that. All right, the next one, number 3, social media. So it helps me create content for social media, especially I told you I take my podcast transcript, plug it in, and in any blog posts that I do, or, other content, and I say, hey, create some social media captions around this. And so it pulls from my own content and then just kind of rephrases it, puts it in a caption format, and super helpful with that. I have a graphic design and marketing business that I run on the side. I don't market that business anymore, but that business, I have clients that I will use ChatGPT to help me write their social media posts and things like that. And ChatGPT usually gets me about 85 to 90% of the way there with social media captions. I then go in and tweak it for kind of tone and voice and pull out anything I wouldn't normally say, or rephrase things to make it sound more like me or more like my clients' brands. All right, number 4, brainstorming. It is awesome for helping come up with names for my workshop, or names for my clients' businesses, workshop titles, podcast episode names, email subject lines, even brainstorming travel ideas, brainstorming interview questions for my podcast interviews. So I use AI to kind of break through creative blocks all the time. All right, number 5, writing. So while I don't want to use ChatGPT for writing too heavily, it is a powerful, helpful tool for doing some writing. So it helps me write the show notes, as I've mentioned, reel scripts, email newsletters. That's something that's like, okay, I already had the content created. I already recorded the podcast in my own voice. Here's the transcript. Now just pull something out of this to make an email newsletter. All right. And then also for writing, I have one design and marketing client that I do their blog posts for. And this is a medical office with a kind of specialty. So I'm not a doctor. I don't know medical terms and all the ins and outs, but ChatGPT does a really good job writing their articles. And then I go back through and make sure that it sounds like the brand, because this medical office wants to be warm and welcoming and friendly. And so I don't want it to sound corporate or stiff or too medically heavy. Then I obviously run it by the doctor, and the doctor has even said, she's like, wow, I'm the doctor and you write this article better than I could have written. I'm like, well, I told her, I'm upfront about it, that I use ChatGPT to help write her blog posts. And then I just refine it to sound like their brand. So I don't ever really take things directly from ChatGPT and use it straight up for writing, but it gets me 80-90% there, which is amazing. So the next one is refining my writing. So I do like to write. I like to have my own kind of creative tone, but every once in a while I get stuck. And so I will plug a sentence in that's halfway written and say, can you finish this? Because I just can't place the words to finish my thought and make it make sense. Or I'll plug something in and say, hey, can you refine this? How could I make this sentence better? And that way I'm not using it to write the entire thing, but every once in a while, just a sentence or a paragraph. Hey, can you rearrange this a little bit? And then finally, strategy and planning. So I use ChatGPT to help me simplify my personal schedule, come up with what priorities I should be working on when I have a to-do list that's super long. I use it to help me compare software options or help me price my products and services. I use it to help me design my offers and format my funnels for anyone here who understands business and knows what a funnel is. So while I've been using ChatGPT probably for about a year now, probably about a year, and the paid version for probably the last 6 months, there are some things where it falls short a little bit and that I found it hasn't been good at. So the first thing that it kind of fails at is creating things with my personal stories. If I am writing a blog post or an email newsletter or setting up a podcast episode, I'm having it help me outline, and it'll come up with these fake examples of something that it's pretending is from my life. And I'm like, that never happened. So it doesn't know your personal stories. It can't pull those out of thin air. Those are things that are just in my head. And so I have to be able to still add that personal touch. And then also, it's really not good at creating emotional content. So there have been times when I'm trying to write an ad copy that I want to tug on people's heartstrings. I want it to connect with them emotionally, make them feel something. And so I asked ChatGPT, make it emotional. And it just really, AI doesn't quite, it's not there yet. I think it might get there as it learns from people who have emotions. But at this moment in time, I haven't found it to be that great at creating emotional-based content. All right, next, choosing the best pull quotes from a podcast. Sometimes I want it to pull out some quotes from my podcast that I can use on social media. And sometimes it just grabs random parts of the transcript. I'm like, that's not really what I consider a standout quote from my transcript, or it'll even make up whole new quotes that I'm like, this isn't even in the transcript. Where did it get this from? And I'll say that to ChatGPT, like, hey, you just made that up. That's not word for word. And it's like, oh, you're right. Here's one that's word for word. So yeah, sometimes it just does some weird things. Summarizing podcast content. As I told you, I plug in my transcript and I say, create a summary. And I've learned to have to go back and I delete things that weren't part of the main point of my podcast. Like if I'm sharing an update on my home renovation, or I'm sharing the backstory of how I met one of my podcast guests before we dive into the content, or even just talking about her bio and reading her bio out loud, there are things that are not part of the meat of the episode that it kind of adds into the summary. I'm like, what is the podcast episode about? That's what I want you to summarize. So you definitely have to be specific sometimes and let ChatGPT know, like, hey, include only the true content that is about XYZ theme. And even then, sometimes it gets it wrong. So it's getting there. I'm sure it'll improve with time. Right now, as I'm recording this is April 2025, if you're listening to this in the future. And so you could be listening to this in like a year and be like, wow, yeah, ChatGPT's come a long way. It doesn't have these issues anymore. All right, one other issue I've run into is rhyming. Now, it did do a really good job helping me come up with the night before Christmas card in that poem kind of theme about our home renovations and what we have going on. And so I wrote a few of the lines, and then I had ChatGPT write the rest of the poem. And then I had to go back through and tweak things because it was sharing some things that, once again, weren't true about my house renovation or my family life. And together, we created a really great poem, and my sister was very disappointed to find out that it was written half by ChatGPT. She was like, what? No, I thought you wrote that. It's like, I'm good, and I've done it before. It just would have taken me a long time, and I don't have that kind of time these days to sit there and write a whole poem about my home renovation for a Christmas card. That is not an important enough thing to be taking up my time when ChatGPT does a good job with it. But on the other hand, I was trying to have it help me write the birthday party invite for my son. He's turning 4, and I want to have his party at the skate park with bikes and scooters. And so I plugged in a few of that and said, hey, can you help me come up with a rhyming headline for the birthday invite? And what it gave me was roll on over, Austin is 4. All right, so over 4. To me, those don't rhyme, like at all. Over 4. I mean, they kind of both end in an for, I don't know. That to me, I told it, I was like, this doesn't rhyme, try again. And it gave the same thing again. Okay, so ChatGPT does not always have the human brain. It's like there are some children's books out there that their rhymes don't rhyme. Either like the prose is off and the syllables don't match up and so the rhyme is off, or they'll use something like said and try to rhyme it with paid because they both end in AID, but I'm like, those don't rhyme, said and paid. I just don't get it, how some of these things out there are so bad. Maybe that's where ChatGPT is pulling from, these other people's bad rhymes. I don't know. All right. And then also knowing personal preferences. This goes back to, it doesn't know my personal stories. It also doesn't know my personal preferences. So sometimes I'll try to have ChatGPT help with making meal plans for the week or coming up with activities for my kids and I to do for summer or vacation planning. And it just doesn't know certain things about our family. And so I either have to plug those in or get really, really specific with what I'm looking for and just be like, hey, we do not like XYZ. My kids won't eat this. They don't like that activity. My husband has a bad back, so we can't do too much strenuous activity on our vacation. So it just doesn't know those things because it's not human. So we just have to keep that in mind. And then the final thing that I found that it hasn't been good with is giving local recommendations. So I once asked for fun, affordable restaurants in my area with a great atmosphere. And I know that's a big ask, like having a nice atmosphere and have it be not super expensive. But the list it gave me were either super fancy overpriced places, and I'm like, okay, I asked for affordable, or absolutely zero atmosphere. And so I'm like, I know a handful of places that could fit this bill. I was just looking for new options, but these weren't any of them. So that's just something that it doesn't know what the atmosphere is like because it's not a human. So unless there's reviews out there where people talk about how awesome the atmosphere is, it's just not going to know that. So those are the ways that I found that ChatGPT has fallen short and that AI is not always that great. So while it's very powerful, it's not personal. And one day, I kind of hope it doesn't get there, because that just takes away from our humanity and the personal connections of going to people and saying, hey, what's a good restaurant that is affordable and has a good atmosphere? All right. We don't have to use AI for everything, people. So now that I've roasted AI enough, ChatGPT, if you're listening, which you probably are because I plug in my transcripts to you, please know I do love you. And I'm not going to end our relationship over any of these pitfalls. I will still keep using you. So let's now get into some best practices for using AI in our decision making. What are the do's and don'ts? How can we use AI in a helpful manner while avoiding some of the pitfalls that I explained just now or that I explained last episode 30. So let's start with the do's, the things you should do when using AI to help with your decisions or just in general. So do start with your own ideas first. Don't let AI replace your brain. Do some brainstorming, do your own kind of planning, think things through first, and then plug it into AI for expansion. 2, do feed it background information. So as you heard from some of the pitfalls and some of the ways that I felt AI was lacking, it's only as good as what you give it. So set it up for success with good context, thorough background information, whatever information it needs in order to help you. Then the next do goes right hand in hand with that. Ask AI to ask you questions. So I did this for my last workshop. I said, what questions can you ask me about my workshop and the goals and the theme and what I want to get people to get out of it in order to make this a really successful workshop? And so it gave me some questions that then I was able to plug in the answers to of, okay, I want to target this audience. I want to reach this goals. I want to help them with XYZ. And then I was able to take that, put it back into ChatGPT and say, now help me create an outline for my workshop. And so it wasn't going off of no information. It wasn't going off of just the internet's information of what it felt my workshop should cover. It was using my own words and my brain, my thoughts, my desires for this workshop in order to create the outline. And so just working hand in hand here, not depending on it to just create it for me and leaving out some of the personal touches and some of the things that I felt would be important. All right, do let it build a foundation for you. So use it to outline options and create that foundation or provide a starting point for you that then you can build on and start using your brain. You don't want to let your brain turn to mush, as we see so often in like WALL-E and stuff, where they just turn to AI and they turn into blobs because they stop using their muscles. We don't want that to happen. This is what keeps us human. All right, do learn to write good prompts. So the better your questions that you feed it, the better the results. Do pay for the good stuff. So if you are using AI a lot for business or heavily and you need more memory from it, you need to be able to upload longer documents, you want it to get to know you better so it can create more tailored, personalized responses, then I do suggest upgrading to a version that has the memory. Just go ahead and purchase the next level up. It's worth it. The next one, do use it to visualize scenarios. So when we are making decisions, sometimes we don't know what the outcome is going to look like, but it can do a really good job of giving a projection because it goes off of what's online, and that is people's experiences. So it pulls from other people's experiences to create these hypotheticals for us. And while you can't take that as anything more than a hypothetical, it does give you a fresh perspective and helps give you some ideas of what that could look like. And for some of you, you have a hard time visualizing things that aren't tangible. They're not in front of you. It hasn't happened yet. And so this could be a really great way to help with that. All right, do start with prayer and stay anchored in God. So remember, AI is just a tool. It is not your shepherd. God should always remain first and be the light that guides your path. Do talk to people in your decisions. So seek godly counsel still. Ask your people, talk with family members, share it with your spouse. Do not isolate yourself just because AI might be smarter than some of the people around you, but there's still so much value in human connections and building off of people's experiences, and especially people you can relate to, have similar situations and circumstances and backgrounds to you, can pour into you in a different way than just pulling from general internet where you don't know whose experience it's pulling from and trying to give information about, and if they have any of your same goals and desires and personality traits and characteristics and circumstances. So definitely still do talk with people. And then do fact check everything. So even when AI might sound confident, it can be wrong. You know the phrase, don't believe everything on the internet? Well, guess where AI pulls its information from? The internet. So don't always believe everything and just take it straight up. Definitely fact check, because you don't know if it's pulling from a mistaken source. Like I just posted a fake article about a fake AI chip implanted in your brain as April Fool's. If some sort of AI out there scanned that article and only read the first few paragraphs or only took the image that I had created of this fake article and used that to give someone information, that is not correct. So you just have to be careful. Fact check everything. Next, do take tech breaks. Step away from screens and let your brain reset. Take some breaks from AI every once in a while so you don't become dependent on it or addicted to it. Next, do use the right tool for the job. So not all AI platforms are created equal. Some of them are better for creating content and writing for you. Some of them are better for planning or for research. So do your research on which platforms to use for research. And so just look it up and see there's Claude, there's ChatGPT, there's Gemini, there's all sorts of programs out there. Some of them are powered by the same backend. They're just a different front end face. Some of them actually save your data and use it to help learn and for it to then use towards helping other people. And some of them don't save your data. So if that's an important safety feature for you or you just don't want it documenting and storing your information, then definitely make sure you look into which ones are more protected. All right, do use it to narrow your choices. So let's say you're buying a car. AI can filter based on some of the things you're looking for in a car, but in the end, it's not going to know how you feel about driving that car. Go out and test drive, experience it for yourself. I know I had done all the research my first car out of college. I was set on this certain one that had really good safety reviews. It had good reviews. It seemed like a reliable vehicle. And then I went and test drove it, and I hated the way that it drove. And so that car was out. So use it to narrow your choices, but not to make the selections for you. All right. Do get a fresh perspective. As I mentioned with having it visualize things for you, ask it to give you another angle, maybe one you don't agree with. Ask it to challenge your thinking or to point out what you may be missing. And so that way you're able to see multiple perspectives, multiple angles. Do still listen to your heart and your desires. If we just use AI and these algorithms to decide what's quote unquote best, then we're missing out on some of the joys in life, some of the things you desire, and you might be willing to overcome some of the obstacles or some of the downsides of the things that ChatGPT might suggest, just because you love it and you desire it. So don't miss out on some of those joy-producing opportunities because you're asking AI to make the choice for you. And if you want to go back to episode 1, I talk about your head versus heart versus gut instincts and decision making and how you should find a balance of all of those. I should go back and redo that and also add in AI, but I guess the AI part is more of the head, like the logic, the data, the facts, the research. So go listen to that and see how you can have that balance in your decision making so that you have joy and fulfillment in those decisions. Do work on becoming a better decision maker independent of AI. So work on building your decision making skills. And yes, it is a skill, which means you can get better at it. So by making decisions yourself, learning from past mistakes or learning from others' mistakes, you start to build that confidence in your own choices and you won't have to turn to AI as much. And finally, do set your decision foundation. So the better you know yourself and the more you have laid out of what your priorities are, your goals, your values, the easier it will be to make decisions that are aligned with what you're looking for. I suggest I have this free guide called the Decision Compass, and it'll help you set the lens from which you make your decisions. And that way you won't have to go to AI as much, and you'll be able to start gaining confidence in your decisions, and you'll have a really good perspective that, okay, I've already set this boundary, I've set this non-negotiable, I know this about myself, and so I'm going to make decisions out of that mindset. One example of this was that a year ago at spring break, my family didn't have any plans besides like a few friends' birthday parties and whatnot. We were going to stay home for spring break. And just a couple days before spring break, we found out that my husband's great aunt was about to have a heart surgery. And his grandma had recently lost her husband and was a little lonely. And so 2 days before spring break, we started talking like, hey, should we go up to North Georgia? It's about a 10-hour drive for us, and spend spring break up there with them. And at first I thought, okay, let me pray over this. And when I went to pray, it was like God immediately spoke to me and said, Lauren, you already know the answer. Why? Because we had already predetermined that family was a priority. So it made it the easiest decision ever to know, yes, we're going to drop our plans for the week of spring break, and sorry we can't make it to these birthday parties, but we're going to prioritize family because we've already established that that is an important thing for us. And so that drives certain decisions. So I'd love to know if you guys have any other do's for using AI. So send me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to know some of your best practices. Hey friends, do you want to live life making intentional decisions? grounded in your true core values, long-term goals, and deepest desires, without the stress and agony of having to face every decision that comes up individually. If that sounds like you, then you need my free decision compass. This free PDF guide will help you gain clarity on who you are and how you want to live, so you can predetermine certain decisions and priorities to save your brain power for the more complex choices. Because if your priority list is 10 items long, that's not truly a priority. You need to know what's the most important. This guide will help you set some boundaries and uncover your non-negotiables so you can make more personalized decisions for you, not based on everybody else's expectations of you. It includes a place to write your decision foundation statement, helping you live by your values, make easier yeses and guilt-free nos. Download your free decision compass now at anchoreddecisions.com/compass to set your compass on what's truly important. Now, back to the episode. So now let's get into the don'ts. Some of these are a bit of just the opposite of the above, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate. And some of these I might have already gone over a little bit in last episode, but wanted to have the complete list here for you. Some of these are new. So don't let it make decisions for you. It is here to help, not take over. It shouldn't be the decision maker. You are still the decision maker. Don't use it too much. Seriously, when it comes to your brain's ability to make decisions, use it or lose it. Keep your brain active. Don't let it turn to mush or lose its ability to do critical thinking. If you can't think without AI, it is time to step back. Don't trust everything it says. As I mentioned before, some things it just makes up, and some things are pulled from irreliable sources. And I've even asked it to create quotes for me before for social media, looking for quotes from actual people. And it just made up people and made up these quotes. I'm like, what type of source is that if I'm just like making up people and what they said? So don't trust everything it says. All right, don't be vague. So it will not be helpful without clear direction or clear context and enough background information. Don't prioritize it over prayer. God should always be first and throughout, and so don't turn to AI until you've prayed over things. Don't use it for every decision. Save it for just the right moments. Once again, you can be exercising your decision-making skills. You can learn how to make decisions independently, and you're not becoming reliant on it. Don't forget who you are. AI does not know your calling, your values, or your mission like you. So don't get so swept up in what AI is directing you to do or what it says you should be like and do, and just remember who you are, who God has specially made you to be, and stand firm in that. Don't be afraid to say, this sucks, start over. You can give it feedback. It helps it learn what you need, or you can scrap what it gives and say, hey, start from fresh. I know sometimes it even provides me with two options and has me vote between them, which one I like. And honestly, a lot of times I kind of pull from both of them. I'm like, I didn't really take either word for word, but it gives me a good foundation. So the more that we tell it that like, I didn't like that, sometimes I'll even go back in the end and say, hey, here's what I did end up writing. And that way it gets to know my tone and my ideas and my thoughts and my voice so that it's able to be better for next time. And then don't replace spiritual wisdom with techie wisdom. So even if ChatGPT or whatever AI program sounds godly, make sure to check it against scripture and trusted voices, and don't rely on it to be your spiritual mentor. That's what pastors and small group leaders and other faith-based friends and family members are for. So even though it might be able to spit out some awesome Bible verses, it is not a replacement for spiritual wisdom. So there you have it. AI is a powerful tool, not a personal advisor, not your pastor, not your parent, just a tool. When used with wisdom, clarity, and spiritual grounding, it can make your life a lot easier and save you a ton of time. It can make your work more efficient and really give you a good base to let your creativity come alive. But it should never take the place of you, your values, your brain, your heart, and your relationship with God. Your action step of the day today is to take a moment to reflect on how you are using AI. Are you avoiding it? Have you not tried it? Could you maybe give it a chance to save a lot of time and energy? Or are you relying on it too heavily? Do you need to cut back? Do you need to start making your own decisions? Start writing things yourself without relying too heavily on AI? So take some time to evaluate that. I'd love to hear from you. Send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Anchored Decisions, and let me know what you use AI for, or if you have a hilarious AI fail. I just want to hear it. So that's all for today. Let me pray us out. Father God, I thank you that we have tools like artificial intelligence and ChatGPT to help us with our decisions, with writing, with time saving, with brainstorming. And God, we pray that we are good stewards of those tools, that we do not become dependent on them, addicted to them, or reliant on them, but that we tune in first to you and your spiritual direction, your still small voice within us, and that we still turn to others for wise counsel, and that we do not lose our humanity in the process. Help us to keep our brains sharp and to not turn to mush as we rely more and more on artificial intelligence to do things for us. And God, we pray for the next generation that who knows, well, you know, God, what AI will be like down the line. And we pray that students today learn how to write, learn how to make decisions, learn how to make their own choices, to think critically, and to not grow so reliable on technology as the future is built on it. So God, we thank you for your sovereignty, that you are in control, that you are above all things. We praise you and we give you the glory, Jesus. Amen. Thanks for listening all the way through. I hope this episode has helped you learn how to use AI in your decision making without becoming dependent on it. Hit subscribe so you can stay tuned to the next 2 episodes, which are on financial decisions, how to decide what to invest in, and how to set up a biblical-based financial foundation. See you then.